And today we're just going to use a practice that I've really enjoyed practicing myself called Yes, This Too. It's a form of accepting what is. It's a strategy, it's an actual way, a tool to learn how to accept what is so that you can move into the second part of what we all want when things are not the way we want them, which is the change. We can't have change without acceptance, and we can't have acceptance of something we don't like without having a plan for changing it. So they work together. Can't have one without the other if you're after change. Yes, this too. So sitting with yourself here, nodding to yourself, welcoming yourself home to yourself, acknowledging your as is state and bowing in your mind with your heart to yourself. Yes, this too. Yes, this part of me belongs, this as is state. And then gently bringing to mind something that has brought you a lot of joy, or some pleasure recently. Something that has made you smile or laugh or feel connected. Just bring that experience to mind and let yourself smile, welcoming it in and say, yes, this too. This belongs. And this is part of integrating ourselves so that we can feel more and more aligned every day with who we are and who we actually want to be. The imagination of who we are and the reality of who we are, when they're not aligned, when they're not in sync with each other, we start to feel crazy. We start to feel disintegrated, split off from ourselves. So welcoming everything is the way to integrate, especially the parts we don't like. So with the next breath, gently call to mind something that has made you feel, we'll just use the word hurt or bad recently. Maybe something made you feel angry, something made you feel jealous, something made you feel resentful or guilty, upset in some way, in a way that's not your ideal state. And very, very gently, I want you to hold that feeling, whatever that feeling you had. Maybe it's still lingering. Maybe to soothe yourself, you put your hands on your belly or you put your hands up on over your heart. And with a really gentle, loving smile, we say, yes, this too. This belongs. This is part of it. When we see our children having a hard time, when they're really struggling, when they're really flailing, when they're really having especially some emotional pain or physical pain, maybe they're sick, or maybe they've been rejected, and we just want to jump in and fix it because it sucks for us to see our kids in pain. We know in our heads that rescuing them from that pain is not the answer. We know that saving them from a painful experience doesn't build the grit, doesn't build the resilience that we want them to have later in life. We know that snow plowing their way through life, snow plowing the road for them, is not going to help them develop strength, self assurance, confidence, all the stuff they're going to need when the road gets bumpy, because it will. Life is full of bumps. And so we need to learn how to practice this acceptance of their pain and not saving them from it. And so we say, yes, this too, when they're having pain. It saves us. We don't have to say this to them out loud necessarily, depending on the situation, depending on their age. But when we have a practice of welcoming everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the painful, the pleasurable, when we widen our receptors, we widen that pipe of our own emotional bandwidth, then we're able to struggle less, resist less, and do that thing that we all want to do, which is go with the flow. The suffering is in the resistance of how things are when we want them so desperately to be different than how they are. That's the struggle, that's the resistance, that's where the pain is. It's often said that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So when we learn to welcome the pain, when we learn to say this also belongs, and we don't shut out in all the ways that we've learned to shut out, we've been taught to shut out, to be stoic, to look on the bright side, to deny what's going on, to tell our kids, you'll be fine, right? We just jump to the fix it mode. That's a way that we're not welcoming all of what exists in life. And when we start shutting off one side of our emotional bandwidth, we also start shutting off the other side. If we're shutting down our capacity to feel pain, we also shut down our capacity to feel pleasure and joy. That's just how it works. You don't get to selectively cherry pick which ones you're going to feel less and which ones you're going to feel more. And the more we can have a human experience, the more that we're able to accept all of it. And we're not going to feel as much the need to run from a difficult experience. We're not going to feel the need to deny our kids painful experiences. We also won't get swept up in their emotions as much. If you're somebody who, when your child is feeling pain, you feel it, that doesn't necessarily help them either. Over empathizing, over identifying with your child's feelings doesn't let them have their own experience. It starts having your experience be projected onto theirs. So, yes, this too, when your child is having a difficult time and your child is frustrated. Yes, this too, this is part of what it means to be human. Yes, this too, when your child is bored. Yes, this too, when your child is having a total meltdown. Yes, this too is one really effective tool to soothe yourself so that you can effectively soothe your child and not jump in to save them. Saving them is not going to help them in the short term or in the long term. Yes, this too, to everything life brings, especially if it's something that you want to change. We can't make change unless we first accept what is. And there's a paradox in there, right? Because, well, if I accept what is, doesn't that mean that I'm just surrendering and I'm giving in to this? I don't like this thing that's happening. I don't want it to happen. Okay, great. But in order to do it differently, you have to first acknowledge what is going on, right? If you're struggling with yelling a lot, you're losing your patience a lot, it does not work to just say, I'm not going to yell anymore. I'm just not going to do it. It doesn't happen like that. First, there has to be the acknowledgement of, I'm struggling with my yelling and I need to lean in here and figure this out so I can do it differently. That's acceptance leading to change. It doesn't mean rolling over, putting up your hands when you accept something. It means really looking at it honestly. And so, yes, this too applies there as well. Yes, this too. There's a piece of my parenting that I really want to work on that needs improvement so that I feel better, so my kids feel better, so my home feels better. This is a wonderful, wonderful tool to help you stop suffering. It doesn't remove the pain. It doesn't even remove conflict. Again, conflict is inevitable. Losing your poop over the conflict, that's optional. And pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And I don't want you to suffer. So yes, this too, to all of it. And then from there, you can make a smart decision about how you want to do it differently. I hope that helps you. Please let me know in the comments if that does help you and how you're going to apply it to yourself today, to your parenting, or how you've already applied this concept. I'd love to hear it.